I want you to understand my life. I went from the classroom to an educational service agency, where my job was to design staff development and do PD. And if that's any of your jobs, then welcome to my life too. Now in Kansas, I was an art teacher that was trying to do PD in art, which is awesome. There's only so many art teachers in Kansas, and I ran through my audience in a year. And my boss said, if you don't diversify and learn some new things, I love you, but I can't just employ you. So I got busy learning, and I sat down at a computer, and I taught myself most of this pretty quick because I had to. I didn't sleep for a long time. I don't sleep much anyway. I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of go. But I taught myself. I went on this deep sort of learning curve to get good at some of this stuff, and I started putting myself there just constantly. As a school leader, I feel like one of my jobs as a board member is to see the future and to bring some version of that back to my district on behalf of our kids, and to always be thinking of our ecosystem. What works in Shawnee Mission, Kansas doesn't work in Inman, Kansas. What works in Inman, Kansas doesn't work here. You know your people, you know your tolerance, you know your parents, you know your teachers. So part of that is just always thinking about, how do I give them what they need, give them time? How do I build up people without getting them killed? Let's say that you're a guy in my district and I start getting you stuff. You know why I get you stuff? Because you do stuff with it. It costs a freaking fortune, and it can't be a paperweight. But every time I get you something, you hit a home run. So I start to get you stuff all the time. Now what happens? Other teachers are starting to say, it must be nice being his boy. That happened to me because they knew that if they got me something, I was going to be a Ferrari. I was going to go crazy and use it until I blew the wheels out, right? So that can't be one person or two people. We got to build cultures like this, cultures of people who try new things. How do you anoint that? How do you get that to start? And I think you start with who you have. You've got great people. The problem is most of us don't know what each other does. Most school districts are groups of people who share a common parking lot but not a common vision. It has to start like that. We have to sort of say, what are we? What are we about? Right? And then send you on a mission, right? To go out, and then we got to reward you, and the first thing you got to do is become convinced that your straitjacket might not be as tight as you thought. Right? So I would go to my boss and say, I'm about to do this. I usually didn't go. I'd ask for forgiveness instead of permission because they loved me and feared me. I was going to get headlines one way or the other. But they were always good headlines, but there were people who were nervous. They tried to shut me down. I had one superintendent who just somehow was threatened by me. I don't know why, because I don't want his job. I was just doing what I could do and learning what I could learn because I love my kids. I learn because they need me to. Not because, I like some of this stuff too, but I wouldn't do it if they didn't need it. I started looking at college catalogs, and I was seeing technologies that I wasn't using. And I realized I was sending my kids from an analog education to a digital one and a digital workplace. And I started thinking, I think I'm shoplifting from the children. Now let me explain that condition. When you're taking a paycheck, but you're not doing everything you can. You usually know when that starts to happen. It happened in the last 3 years of my tenure. I was sort of doing the same year, warming it up and serving it again. But the colleges keep sending these catalogs, and I'd look at the kids in the catalogs, and they were using software, and they were using tools that I didn't even have. And at first I was proud that I didn't use it. I don't use that. Classical, I'm teaching them classical education. Art doesn't change. The way I taught it could. I was teaching automotive design using clay, the way Detroit did in the 50s. If a kid wanted a job out of my class, he'd have to get a time machine. I was teaching darkroom photography in a time when no newspaper uses a darkroom anymore, and I was liking it and spending $1,000 a year on supplies. But I was liking it because I knew it. I was comfortable there, right? But was I doing the best thing for kids? So one day I felt guilty, so guilty I actually took action. I Googled Photoshop, and then I found out what it was, and I went to my superintendent and said, can I get Photoshop? He almost had an aneurysm. He was so excited because I was that last holdout teacher that sort of my curriculum is fine like it is. I'm really good at traditional art, right? And I'm proud of that. At the same time, I had to change my thinking a little bit, and it wasn't easy because first I had to deal with the fact that I'd sort of been shoplifting for a couple of years. I got over it. I got my copy of Photoshop. Then I tried to read the tutorial. Who's read the tutorial for Photoshop? How long is that? It's thicker than the Bible. How can God get his word unto his people in fewer words than Adobe wants, I'm trying to read the whole freaking book. I'm at the school at midnight still reading the book because I came from a generation where you can't teach it till you know it. So I'm literally trying to incorporate the book into my brain. My wife calls at midnight and she says, you like being married? I said, I did till now. She said, get home. I said, you don't understand. The kids are coming tomorrow and they know we got photo. Get home. You don't understand. They're going to want to use get home. Now, I've been married 25 years. There's a certain get home she can say that makes my butt tingle. Remember when your dad or mom would yell your name a certain way when you were a kid and your butt tingled? Because your butt knew, didn't it? It knew. So I went home and I didn't learn Photoshop that night. The next day I came to school and the kids were all surrounding the software like it was a crashed UFO. And I said, I'm sorry, kids, I don't know how to use that. They said, Honeycutt, we know you're old. We got your back. We're going to make a tutorial for you. I know, right? And something in me just broke. Something just finally said, oh my God, what was I doing trying to teach technology? It's a pencil. You don't teach the pencil. Kids, we're going to talk about graphite compressed between wafers of wood. That's not curriculum. It's a pencil. It's a tool. So I only had one computer anyway. If I wanted all the kids to get computer time, I had a darkroom timer. When it went, every kid got up and moved over one seat just to get them some computer time. So it wasn't like a problem. So I just told the kids, we have this. If you can use it, great. I'm not going to teach it, right? And they taught themselves, and I went on with my life. Then I started collecting more things, right? More and more things to get my kids ready because I wanted my kids to have an unfair advantage. They already come from central Kansas. They need every advantage they can get, right? And free software came along, and I went, oh my God, I love free. Free's awesome. The Wacom drawpad came out. Remember the Wacom? Has anyone used the Wacom? Before the Wacom, doing art on a computer was so prescriptive. You grab this, you pull it over here. It was all template-based, and there was no way to sort of freehand. The Wacom came out, had 1,200 levels of pressure sensitivity, right? And it was like back in the day, it was $500 for one this big, and you looked at the screen, you drew down here. So I started trying, and it wasn't easy because I had to look here and draw here. But then I started liking it because I could do watercolor or oil paint in front of them, and it looked just like the real media. They're using real oil paint, and I'm looking at the class. I don't have my back to the class. I'm not surrounded by a bunch of kids after gym class who smell like armpits. I'm at the front, and they can all see. And then I saw this button that said record. I can record the whole freaking lesson and just hit play, second hour. I lost my freaking mind. I lost my mind. And when I have a substitute, I just put a drawing under the Wacom. She would trace my drawing, and the kids thought she was an amazing artist. So good. The more I'm doing this, the more I'm starting to get yelled at in faculty meetings, and people are starting to throw spears, and it hurts because I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to do the right thing, but the culture was hanging on and afraid of the change. And I get it. I understand why, right? And I'm one of them. I can't advocate. I'm one of them. So it got really lonely. And the problem is I didn't have a critical mass of people. It was just me. I was the poster boy. I needed more like me. Now, as I look around this room, I know there are people like this, that were like me. If you're, okay, I'm going to do something dangerous. If you're kind of the way I was, can you raise your hand? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so I do this, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I find you all, and I pull you into a group, and I get you a T-shirt, and I say, we need you. You're going to become Innovations, Inc. for this district, okay? Find the best of what's free and new. Test it and tame it. If anyone sees an F-bomb, you're fired, okay? So I respect you, and I give you permission, but I also give you responsibility. IT, it's no longer your fault if people see boobies. Make it work. Your job is to make it work. See, what happened, no one meant for this to happen, but we hired IT people, and it was totally their responsibility if anything went wrong. And no one has sent them a memo saying that has changed yet. So let's pretend you're my crazy innovative group. It's now on you, okay? So find new stuff and bring it to staff development. Show us what you've done, and we'll incorporate it from there, okay? Now we have a Petri dish, a change Petri dish, right? You're anointed. You have a shirt with a cool little thing on it right here, and people don't just say no really easily because you've been anointed. Who else wants to be in the group? And I need gray hair in this group. Please stop just thinking young Jedis are the only ones who can do this crap. Some of us can do this stuff, and we got gray in our hair. Age does not have a role to play here. It's passion. It's passion. There's a lot of brain research on this. I used to think, and they used to think, that the brain started aging, and it never got better. It just kept getting worse. And then some studies came out on how people stayed young, avoided Alzheimer's by continuing to learn. How many of you know of a teacher who retired and a year later they died? It happens. If you stop using this, you start going down here. How about a person who lost their spouse and they died in a year? If you stop being challenged, you start dying, right? So this is actually really good for people. If you've resisted up till now, it's time to jump in. It's okay if it's with one toe. It's okay, right? So let's say you jump into SketchUp and you do some kind of a thing. I'll connect you to Jay Parsons. Jay Parsons, our math guy over there, because people will surprise you. We thought Jay was like a Luddite and the kind of guy that was never going to jump in. We were wrong. Jay was just looking for the right tool. And when he jumped in and used it, we made a big deal out of it because he needed to have a rock star moment to reconfirm him that he was on the right track. And his friends who didn't want to do technology, he had to kind of work with them because they're like, Jay, you've become part of the enemy. I'm like, what? What? You know, now they're all coming on board because Jay was our herd leader. He got it. He understood. History. Oh my God, history. I love history. It's the story of everything humans have ever done. How can you not love history? It's the glue that holds everything together. My son had 2 history teachers in high school, a great one and a terrible one. The great one brought it to life. He told stories, and lit my son up. The other one would come in, he would say, read chapter 7, do discussion questions 3 through 5, and do not bother me. And he'd sit down and read his paper. If you bothered him, he called you an idiot in front of everyone. And he's getting a paycheck. I'm mad. He is shoplifting from my child. Right? And that is wrong. Thank God my son had the other teacher as the other example, so he saw what good teaching could be, right? I don't know when that guy fell out of love with teaching. I don't know when it happened. It happens sometimes. We get tired, right? We get isolated, and we start coming to work and coming to work and coming to work. I could feel that happening to me. So when I started embracing some of this, it sort of made me new again and scared again. That's good. Every time I'm on stage, I'm terrified. Every time I'm in front of a new class, I'm terrified. It's okay to be a little bit scared and a little bit humbled by that. I think that August feeling is actually probably pretty good for us. You know what I mean? So if the idea of me breaking into your classroom and burning your file cabinet scares you, I want you to sit with that for a little bit, okay? I know some of you guys have gotten rid of your textbooks. That's huge. I do want to pump some sunshine up your panties. I have seen some things in this district I have not seen many other places, and I really mean that. And I go all over the world. I've seen the best schools in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore. I've seen Norway. Norway's awesome, but not better than us, right? Teachers are teachers everywhere I go. You've got some good things going on here, things to be proud of and hang your hat on, right? The number one thing is, how do we let kids shine? How do we do that? And how do we get the story every time? You're pointing the camera at me. Thank you. We got to do more of that and put it in front of parents so they can start saying, that's what our schools do, get our kids ready for the future. Thank you. They got to start saying that, and we got to give them the words to say that. I read a book called Don't Think of an Elephant. Has anyone read that book? Don't Think of an Elephant. It's a political book. It changed my life a little bit because it's about the concept of framing, political framing, naming things in such a way that no one can disagree with it. They did it with No Child Left Behind. They did it with the Patriot Act. Bumper sticker things that people can say, yes. When we do really cool things, we should name them so parents can hold on to it in their head. I know it's stupid, but it works. So you're doing this really cool thing for at-risk kids. It's called Every Kid Wins. Are you against it? What, do you hate kids? What is wrong with you, Hitler? You can't be against it, right? The politicians do this every day to us. No Child Left Behind. Didn't it sound good? It sounded so good. We'd leave none of them behind. I thought it was going to be real, that we'd leave no children behind. We'd go in the hallways and get them all. I did not know it meant no child left untested, you know? So what is the real version of that? What do we call it? And you have to call it something because your taxpayers went to school too. The biggest problem with education is everyone went to school, and they all think they know. It's good enough for my generation. Yeah, we were riding horses then. The world changed a little bit. We got to get them in love with the idea that their kids need new things. So when something new comes along, and administrators and leaders, this is important, we got to find a way to feed you new ideas, new examples, schools, models, things like that. And I don't want you to become a snow globe and fall in love with your own press and become incestuous. And this happens a lot. It's a pride thing, right? How do I make sure that you and the Jedis go other places? I'm doing this Monday. Monday, I'll be in eastern Kansas visiting 3 different schools to see what they have that we don't. And I'm going with an open mind. I'm not going saying, we're just as good as that. That can't be my attitude. I got to see what they're doing, if there's any magic I can steal and bring back to my schools. So routinely, I've got to go out there and expose myself to as many different models as I possibly can. I can do it with Twitter. I can do it with Facebook and social media, but I also want you out there looking. And I don't mean the drive-by. You ever have people visit your school and they do the drive-by? They walk through real quick. They think they saw it all. They didn't see nothing. You got to stay a while. Ask some questions after the teacher's done teaching, right? Find out what they're really doing. Don't just write down iPads. Go back and buy a bunch of iPads. We saw this a lot in Kansas. Schools would go one-to-one iPads just for the sexiness of it. And they'd think they'd get a boost in enrollment, right? But they had no plan at all, no plan. And so 2 years later, they're paperweights, and taxpayers are mad, and they should be, right? So when we're bringing new technology, here's my thing. I like to create a use-lease agreement. So let's say that you guys can have anything you want. Ask me, right? As long as it's not $50,000. Up to $2,000, you can apply for a grant. I'm going to make a grant. But you've got to tell me how you're going to show me and the taxpayers how you're using it. That's the use lease agreement. We did this with iPads when they first came out. We gave them to Title I and Special Ed first, and they filled out a Google form, and they would say what they're doing and the results they're seeing. Well, that gave the board something to show the taxpayers and the teachers. When everyone saw what we were doing with them, suddenly all the teachers, they were ready to go one-to-one. They just needed to see it, right? So it's a way of sort of renting the thing. Because you get a lot of people who want one, they play with it for a while, and it's in the closet. Now, we can't, as leaders, we can't do that. Not in front of people, we can't do that. So what do you need? If there's something you want and you have no money, that never stopped me. I'd start a Kickstarter campaign or a GoFundMe campaign, right? I can raise $1,000 in a week, right, on GoFundMe. Why? I'm connected to lots of people, but I can't just start a GoFundMe and expect free money. You got to tell a really good story, because I'm about to ask 46,000 teachers to fund my program. They all want things too. What's so special about your kids? Get your kids to write that story. Get them to advocate for themselves. Why does special ed need that particular tool, right? Then we go out there on social media and we get you dollar by dollar by dollar. By Friday, we got it. Here's what you can't do. I got a teacher friend in Michigan. He tried to raise $10,000. He was going to buy Chromebooks for his whole class, and it's such a cool idea. But $10,000, that's a lot. That's a lot. I wanted to stop him and say, freeze, 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 freeze. Let's raise $2,000 and buy a few, and let the taxpayers see that, right? And see what you're doing with it, and then prove you need more, and we can move a little more slowly. He tried for the whole thing, and the kids made videos. Right? If that fails, and the kids see that, and they did all of that work, oh, no, you got to slow it down a little bit, one piece at a time, right? You don't get to get the whole enchilada so fast, right? So what do you need? One of the things I've been using lately is this thing here. This is a double robotics telepresence robot. This thing, I ran into this company online because I'm connected, and this is double robotics. This is California startup company. I was Skyping them back when they didn't have one single prototype, but I knew what they were trying to do. They're going to make this. You've seen this thing on Big Bang Theory. You've seen this thing on The Good Wife, right? Before that, it was 3 guys in a room. I Skyped them, and they walked me into the back room where there was just a pile of parts. I went, oh, my God, these guys don't have a plan. And suddenly this thing comes out, right? So there's one sitting in my baby room right now. And last night in my hotel room, I just dialed into it with my phone. And I drove around the house, and I talked to my baby. And I was right in front of his high chair, and I sang to him while Mom did some things, because he'll cry if he's all by himself. I'm all over the house. And I'm a little bit drunk sometimes because I run into things. Like baby stuff is everywhere. So if I don't use the down camera, I could trip over something and fall. And she'll go, oh, Daddy's drunk. What's cool is that Gibson sees my face on the screen, and he treats it just like I'm there. And I love it. I love it so much. He cut his first tooth yesterday, and it's one of these canines, so he's like a vampire child. And I got to be part of all of that. But what was amazing is I felt like I was there. And this is coming, right? So as school leaders, what's next? Why do we want it? And you can't answer that question perfectly till you have one. But dang it, one. Let's say I had one of those. Raise your hand if you would like to use it first. Raise your hand. Okay, here's what happened. I loaned this. It's $2,500. I bought it with my own money without asking my wife. She was mad for a while, but she likes it now. What's cool is I can travel with it. I go to New Zealand, and I took it with me. And any classroom in America could dial into it and walk around Christchurch with me. So once you have this somewhere, it's a node on the other side that you can drive around. It's not like Google Hangouts because the kids can drive. They have mobility. It's one thing to be on the wall, being stuck there, and all the kids go to lunch and you're still on the wall just because you're in chemo and you can't come to school. But when I can put her on that and she can walk down the hall, That changes people's minds. But before I buy one for the Inman district, I better tell a compelling story about what we're going to do at least. And I need you first teachers who will use it. I left this in Inman schools for 1 year, and no one used it. I begged, please. I left a drone in Inman schools for a year, and no one used it. I'm still puzzling over why. You first teachers, come on, start thinking. What can I do with this that gets kids excited? I see a drone. Drones are cool. That's not why I like one. Drones create video from angles you can't get with a phone. So what cool things can you design me some learning, kids? You have to pitch your idea. If I don't like it, you don't get my drone. Show me why you need this angle up here. Come up with that, and if I like it, I'll let you use my drone, right? I'm going to make you work for it a little bit. You'll appreciate it if I make you work for it. So what would you do with this? If I gave it to you, what would you do with this? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
How about if you went to, like I teach chemistry, go to a pharmaceutical place where they produce pharmaceuticals, so they won't let people in, and you can't really see them, so now they can see it.
Can you guys hear that? Okay. He said, his chemistry teacher, what if you sent it to a pharmaceutical company and the kids could walk around and see? Yes, of course. That kind of on-site visit. And most people are really, when I take this to scientists or chemists, they're usually so happy that someone gives a crap that they're really, really nice. They're so nice because they think their job is boring. Astronomers. I get astronomers who are like, they feel like rock stars because the kids care about what they do. So yes, I'd love to take it any place and let it be a node there. There are many CEOs who don't go to the companies anymore. They have these in every place, and they go down through the company, and they talk this way. I've been working with schools in New Zealand who have all these kids in far-flung islands. It costs a fortune to fly a teacher to all of those schools. Well, now they come over the robot. And some of you might be thinking, well, that's not as good as a person. Of course it's not. But it's better than nothing, right? I see a time when 20% of your school population has never been to your school. They all attend via these. Now, if you think that's weird, we had a little boy in my wife's class, multiple transplant recipient, 5th grader. And he'd been through hell. He's one of those kids who's in 5th grade and he's 30 years old. Sense of humor, mature, wonderful kid, never down, always positive. He was rejecting the organs for the last time, and he knew it. So he's heading to the hospital for the last time. And the one thing he cared about is that he was missing the class party on Friday. On that day, this was a good idea. You could send a cupcake to the hospital, and he can be there in every way that he can. So when I have to open my mind to something new, sometimes I go to the extreme on purpose. Because if it's good enough for him, how about the girl who just can't come to school because she's got a health reason and she can't come to school? And I had a little girl like that who was in chemo, and she was bald. And when she appeared the first time, she had a wig on because she thought the kids would make fun of her. But they didn't, And they talked to her like she was there. Hey, Stacy, come to recess. And the robot goes down the hall and goes to recess. And it can't go onto the gravel, but they figure it out. It goes to lunch, and Mom and Dad are thrilled, just thrilled that she gets to feel like she's at school. That's my why. My why is inclusion. My why is sharing limited resources. But if I'm doing this, I'm calling the TV news because I want your school to be the first one to ever have one of these and to have an amazing story that lights everyone up. Don't just buy one to have one. Get a why figured out, right? $2,500, I can raise that. I go to the Chamber of Commerce and say, hey, you guys want to put your stickers on here? We're going to make it like NASCAR. We're going to have all your stickers on there. And let them buy the dang thing the first time, right? So we lease these. Where I work, we lease these to schools who can't afford to buy one. It's pretty pricey, and the price is going to come down. But this telepresence idea is not going away. So I want you already thinking about it, because often we're in the trenches. We're in the trenches, then we have a staff development, learn about a thing. If I could keep you guys aware of what's coming, you could already be building your lessons for what's coming, and it wouldn't catch you flat-footed every time. So how do we feed you what's next? You know what I mean? How do we do that? How do we get you routinely thinking that way about these things? I'm about to trade this thing for a Glowforge. Glowforge is a new kind of, you got one similar. By the way, you got some technology in this district that I haven't seen anywhere. It's amazing. It's amazing. The Glowforge is the trailer park version of that really cool thing that you guys have. You can put cardboard in it and put a design into it, and it will cut out the cardboard like a stencil, or it'll make art, it'll make jewelry. You could put your laptop in there, and it would engrave the whole lid of it according to your design, and they're $2,500. So I'm going to sell my robot because my wife said, you can get one, but you got to sell something. I love my wife, but okay. So I'm going to get a Glowforge, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to put it in a school somewhere, and I need kids to use it, so I have examples. But I have to see what it really does. I don't want to chase the next thing. You know, that's not, I think, leadership. I think leadership is looking for what can we do with all of these things, you know? I invented this model because I talk to kids, and I try to get them to think about what they do. This is a little bit weird, okay? So you have to go with me on this. Life choice Plinko. So I work with at-risk kids, and my siblings are at-risk kids. And I have siblings who are still in poverty. I have a brother who's been in and out of jail so many times, been married 6 times. And I start looking at why that happens. Why is that true? And what becomes clear is that he doesn't reflect. You have kids like this that don't reflect. They never think it's them. It's always someone else's fault. Man, I just can't catch a break. I just can't get lucky. They see their life as being controlled by outside variables. They don't realize they're driving. I tried to tell my brother this, but he's my older brother, so he won't listen to the little brother. I was saying, Carl, you keep doing the same stupid stuff over and over. It's pretty simple, right? But he didn't get it. So I built this model because I talk to these kids. Okay, so you're my kids. I'm going to do this to you, okay? Steal this if you want to. I'm trying to make an app out of this. In the app, I ask you a whole bunch of questions, and you answer them. And then it pre-programs this Plinko game. So you start, over here on the left at the top is poverty and abuse and terrible, terrible things. On the right is money, wealth, and opportunity. And you don't get to choose where you're dropped in. That's not your choice. What you do after that, that's all you. So these pegs, what are these pegs? These are things you run into when you go through life. These are teachers, opportunities, mentors, software, tools, all these things. How you bounce off of those is up to you. No, it's gravity. No, sweetie, you're driving. If you go left, you made a bad choice. You go right, you can have a better life. It's not about where you end. It's about where you spend the majority of your life. Do you want to die at 50 of diabetes? Or do you want to learn nutrition literacy and live longer and keep your teeth? What do you want, right? This gets them started. So in my little app, they answer a questionnaire, and the game plays itself, and they end up over here and go, what just happened? Answer the questions again. Now answer the questions again until you land over here. Now we're getting somewhere. Raise your hand if this is remotely interesting to anyone. What I find is kids remember this. It sticks in their brain. So if you want this, you got it. I'll give the whole thing to you. I'm working with a company called Mad Learn. We're going to try to co-develop this as an app, and we'll see kind of where it goes, right? So I'm talking to kids about this. These are choices, right? Every time, you know, something, raise your hand if it's ever happened to you. You made a bad choice, but you knew it. Right when you did it, you knew it. Raise your hand if that's happened to you. We always do. You know. You always know, but you countermand your better thinking, don't you? For whatever reason, peer pressure or whatever, right? But if you're trying really strategically to have a better life, you might think different about this. And that's what my book is all about over here, is how do you get through life and make better choices, right? So I'm going to ask you guys some questions on the leadership side, right? How do you, and say it loud, and I got a mic right here. I got a mic. In fact, please, one of you guys, I'll just hand it to you. This will be we'll see where it goes. This is on, this will be on, right? I'm dropping it down. Round 3. How do you, as school leaders, how do you guys feed yourselves? Because a lot of leaders can get so caught up in the daily grind, and there's a lot. I wouldn't buy your job. I wouldn't want your job if it paid $1 million. I know what it is, right? But how do you shuffle the deck and keep yourself inspired? How do you feed yourself at your level?
I try to look at whatever the day has been at the end of the day, something positive that day. And no matter what's happened, I try to reflect at the end of the day on what was positive to keep you coming back the next day.
Right. Because you can get into a rut where all you're doing is looking for problems, and that will wear you out. Anyone else? That one over here. Mm-hmm.
For me, it's just getting in the classroom and being with the students.
Yeah. Anyone else?
For me, it's keeping in touch with the kids that I've already made an impact on.
Doesn't that help? Yeah. And on Facebook, when they hit you back and you see where they are, and they struggle. You love them, you don't stop loving them, right? I had a kid one time, I saw him at the gas station. He was in Hutchinson Correctional Facility after I taught him. I didn't teach him to be a recidivist. But I was bummed out. I felt like a failure. And I saw him, he got out of prison at the gas station. I said, what did I do wrong? He said, Honeycutt, do you think it's about you? That's a huge ego you got on you, man. He said, I had chaos going on in my life. He said, your room was the place I could be. He said, but I'm starting to get it together now. It wasn't about you. And I finally went, God, it isn't always about me. I come to school every day, and I think it's somehow, I love you guys for thinking that way and for constantly playing Stratego with young lives. And, and that's beautiful that you do that. But you can't wear that every day and take it home and blame yourself. You've got to celebrate the victories, too. You've got to feed your soul that way. Anyone else have something? How do you feed yourself? Teachers, how do you? And talk to me. You're teachers. You can talk from back there. I can hear you. How do you keep yourself in the game? What do you do? New. Pray? Love it. New stuff. Does that motivate you? New stuff? See, to me, I love new stuff, but without new examples, sometimes you can fall in love with stuff, right? The deluge of stuff. So examples are huge. What are other teachers doing with stuff that I could use? Steal, borrow, shoplift, you know what I mean? How do you? I used to read journals back in the day. Journals, that's all I had. And now I've got everything. Google alerts, I've got Word, I've got people looking for stuff from me all the time so I can feed this. And I'm always thinking, I'm a pharmacist and I'm writing prescriptions and I'm looking at my patients and going, she needs this and she needs this. And I don't know which day I'm going to get you, but I'm not going to stop trying until the last day that I'm with you, right? And then when I hand you off to him, and I got to make sure, this happened to my wife. She had an autistic kid, and she finally got there with him, 4th grade, and then she had to hand him to a 5th grade teacher. She tried to tell the 5th grade teacher what worked for him, and he said, I'm not interested. What you did isn't part of my job. And I thought, fire him now. Fire him now. How does he not care what worked, what took so long for my wife to learn? He got this ego like this is my room. There's a thing I call the educational prenuptial agreement. That's a problem. Here's the prenup. Ready? Hey, become a teacher. We won't pay you much, but you get your own room. And you get a bunch of stuff. It's not really yours, but while you're teaching, it seems like it's yours. And you have kids to work with and a door that closes. And you get to be the smartest person in the room every day. And there are people who sign that prenup, and I get it. And then the world changed, right? Now we're supposed to work together. It's the read, write, web. We're supposed to collaborate, communicate, cooperate, knock down the walls. No one taught me that, right? This can be tough. How do you open the door? Now, if you look inside the human brain, it's a mess. Artificial intelligence proponents call what's going on in the brain kludge. Right? It's legacy software that's in the way. And they call it kludge. They devalue sort of this thing that we are. If you look at a really well-developed neocortex, right, it looks like a jungle. There's stuff everywhere. It's a mess. There's branches. That's called arborization, the growth of dendrites across the neural network as kids learn new things. Associate things with things, and before long you get a mess. I think if we only do high-stakes testing, right answers, it doesn't look like a forest. It looks like a bunch of telephone poles. You ever meet a brilliant idiot? They know a lot of facts. They're trying to be Google in a time when Google can kick their butt, right? I'm worried about that we've got to do more than that. When I visit a classroom where the kids are inventing, making, doing, what they're doing is associating things with things, and they're growing dendrites is what they're doing. I need parents to know that's going on. So they value that. They value that class. How do you assess that perfectly? I don't know if you can. They're humans, these little kids. It's not always easy to show what's going on in their head. This is the part where I say, ask me anything. And I'm going to qualify this too. Leaders, anyone else in the room, I've been doing this gig for 10 years. I've seen every audience. I've been booed. I've been heckled. I'm a lot of things. So in that time, I've learned a whole lot of strategies. You notice the things I did today were very calibrated on purpose. I never tell you you're wrong. I show you what right might look like. This works with kids too. No one wants to be indicted. That's just not cool. So I have strategies to help people start. So are there questions that you have for me? And this is the Ask Me Anything. Some people say, well, when you're trying to get people to do this and they say this, what do you do? Anything like that. And this is where I find out whether you talk or not, or whether we're all done. So any questions for me? You've seen me all day. I've shown that I got some issues. Yes, sir. When in my career did I realize that every kid was different and I had to teach every kid differently? When I was a kid. And I prayed to God I'd find one teacher like that. And it happened, I went to school in 20 states, and it was still hard to find that teacher. And they weren't always the art teacher, and they weren't always the music teacher. The teachers who love their curriculum more than they love kids, they killed me every time. They had an idea of what learning was, and if I didn't do it, I was wrong. I had one art teacher who used to come over and he'd show me how to draw. He would draw for me. One time he drew the whole picture. I said, "What grade will you give you for this?" He hated me. I got a C in the class, and guess who I got when I student taught? S.G. Howell. I remember you. I'm like, oh crap, because I got a different philosophy, right? I won't touch your paper. I won't. I know you want me to. You know how kids are. Waiter, waiter, waiter. I got to stop that right now, okay? Because I'm not your waiter. I went to school. I got a degree, right? I will advise you. If you ask me a question, I'm going to ask you 2 more. And kids don't like it at first. Just tell us the answer. I had a girl yell at me, "Just give us the worksheet." Oh, God, what do we do to this poor child? What do we do to her? Oh, my God, right? So I got to make sure parents understand. Your kids are going to be frustrated because I don't answer questions because they won't have me forever. You know that, Mom and Dad, right? You got to teach them to fish. So when they come home and they're mad, just know I'm on your side, okay? Yes, I could tell them. I'd love to. I've known this for a long time. I want to teach them how to know because I like them that much. I got to get you to value that or you're going to think I'm not doing my job. It feels really weird to ask questions instead of answering them. But every time I feel like they're trying to pull, kids are grifters. They're grifters. They will get you to do their work. And they'll thank you. "Oh, Mr. Honeycutt, you are so good. I cannot believe I can still be used this way." I'm the, when I first started shading, I wasn't as good, Then I tear it up, where I'll make a whole model and I'll smash it. "Mr. Honeycutt, that is mine. Show me yours." I was just teaching this Star Wars class the other day. I'm doing cardboard Star Wars in our makerspace. I want to show you this because it's just silly stuff. I'm doing this. Shut up. Shut up. Don't judge me. Look up here. How many unread do I have? 53,000. Do not send me an email. I love you, but I'm not answering your email. Hit me on Facebook. I'll talk to you there. That's where I talk to my kid. I'm doing this class where kids are doing Star Wars out of cardboard. This is not MIT stuff. This is simple problem solving, creation, sculpture, and art on a budget. I don't have any money. This is all found material and duct tape. And I love doing this kind of stuff because kids come in, they get excited, and you might not call this curriculum. To me, this is like, I can use this to motivate kids, and I can insert learning into it once they're going. Don't mess it up. Don't slow it down, right? They're excited. They're on fire. Isn't that cute little R2-D2? So this little kid here, guess what was on the front page of Reddit last night? Reddit. This kid's X-Wing. Shut up, right? How many of you know that's a big deal? Reddit's kind of a big deal, right? It's a little bit scary putting your kid out there because there's a lot of people out there. But this is the kind of sort of fun stuff that I like to do on the side. And I know that's not central to my curriculum, but I try to bring it in there because I can motivate that at-risk kid. And while I got them, I can do some things. Am I going to get it all in 1 year? Jesus couldn't do it. Could I give them a really good year that turns them around and 3 years later they're on grade level? I watch my wife do it over and over again. It takes time. This thing we do takes time. People want... Come on, these are kids. It takes a little bit of time. And while I'm working with them, she's bragging about me. I got to give her stuff to brag about. You ever ask your teachers, "Hey, tell us the best stuff you're doing"? And you guys want to, but you're busy, so you don't really write the thing for the newsletter, right? So how do you change that? I started journaling to my phone. Okay, it's a really tough day, but I had a huge victory today. I won't name names, but I had a kid in my class who I thought was going to set the school on fire. And today I think I set him on fire. I just want to say that I tried that software. I don't understand it yet, but he's on fire. This was a good day. And I post that. Why? That's reflection. We tell our kids to do that. Where's yours? How do we reflect? I go back later and I'll look and say, man, I've come a long way. But without the reflection, how do we even know, right? So how do we do that? Could we journal that way? When something good happens, so that you guys can just take it straight to the website, straight to the website. You know what I mean? And get parents to do it. Get parents to do it. You got happy parents. One night a year, but still they're happy, right? You get that story, right? You get that story. That's your time to do that because there's other times when it's harder. You got reporters in your face and wanting to talk about things that aren't really what you're about, right? So I want to pre-fill the bank with good stuff over here so we can withstand a couple of hits, right? Make sense? Okay, other questions? I had one, by the way, thank you for asking that one. As I became a teacher, because I chose art, kids, at-risk kids came to art every year. Every year they came to art. They took art 1, art 2, art 3. I had to invent art 4. They're at the door, and I started asking myself, why? Why do they keep coming to me? I'm trying to figure it out. I have a couple theories. Why are kids creative when they're at risk? My theory is that because they're precluded from normal society, they live in a different place, and their purview is different. They're unadulterated in some ways. If they can just learn some strategies for having a life, they can be fine, right? As long as we don't give up on them. But they're a pain in the butt when you got 26 kids and one little artist. Now try this on, elementary. How many of you have ever had a kid come to your class? They just come to school for the first time, and they're way excited about something. Dragons, castles, unicorns, trains, spaceships, Star Wars. And mom and dad fed that little obsession, and now they're just crazy, right? They raise their hand and find a way to talk about Star Wars every time they raise their hand. Now, this is an important moment when you can either kill a Steve Jobs or make one. I raise my hand in your class, and you know what I'm going to say, so you got to give me a moment, but you can't let me go on, because if I go on, I'm talking for the 15th time in the first week of school about dragons, and the whole class does this thing. I've seen it in kindergarten. Oh, that kid is done. That kid is done for the next 5 years. Now, wait a minute. We just took something that kid was so excited about, and we killed him for it. That accidentally happens. We got to find a way to build kinder culture that makes room for everybody. Everybody, right? Why do I do project-based learning? Because you 3 guys are working in one group. Every group can afford one weirdo, right? So you're the weirdo. You guys are together, and you guys are fighting for weirdo. Now, in that smaller group, you don't stand out like a big sore thumb. In front of the whole room, you do. But in that smaller group, they actually start to value you because you bring a creative purview that actually helps the group. So that's why I love little modular learning, because I can build families of children. Families, right? Because if it's the whole thing. Now think about this. How many humans were we designed to mentor at the same time of similar age? How many humans were we designed to mentor at the same time of similar age? I have a theory. 2. We don't have 6, and we don't have 26. We have 2. God gave us 2. He said, basically, don't have more than 2 at the same time so you can feed them all. Yet John Dewey promised America that one person could effectively teach 26 kids. I don't think it's true. I think it's a lie. Yeah. I think humans were designed to learn in more modular, family style. And this is why I like elementary, because when you do those groups like that, that kind of grouping is more natural for the way we are, you know? In that bigger group, it's scary in that bigger group. So what do? I shut up more. I learn to shut my yap. I learn to conform. And little by little, I go away. I've seen this for years. I've watched this for a career, right? So I'm trying that on, that idea, of how many kids, and can kids help kids? I give you a leadership role. I do a thing in my class. How much time do I have? Am I out of time again? 15. I have a thing that I do in my class called the corporate construct. Hate it or like it or just go to sleep. I don't care. The corporate construct was this. I turn my class into companies. And I did this to teach financial literacy, to teach relevance of my career pathways that go from art to the world, right? So when I did automotive design, I give you a job application. You all fill one out in August. I look at them all and I hire CEOs. It's all hypothetical money, but I'm giving you $100,000. Here's your perks over here, right? Now hire a workforce. Now you interview the rest of the class and pick your workforce. You get four at your table, right? Who do they pick first the first time? How's that work? Let it crash, baby. Let it crash, because they're going to learn some stuff, right? My friends suck. They won't do nothing. That's cool. What did you learn, Dorothy? That when I go to Oz, I will, yeah. So they fire him. And you can fire a kid in my class, but you have to have a reason. It can't be social, right? Well, he's not productive and he argues all the time. Okay, cool. So now he's fired. Now he's looking for a job. He's got to interview at every other company and get a job. If you want to get a grade, you got to get a job. Well, he takes a pay cut. Hypothetical, doesn't matter, still stings. What did you learn? So I'm teaching life and art at the same time, and it looked weird. So you're Mazda, you're Ford, you're GM, you're Chrysler. The next unit is fashion design, and you've all got a book coming out of all the stuff you got for this season, right? So there's always something like that, and it looks like industry. It looks like it. And every kid tries on leadership, every kid. You don't get to choose. I had one little girl, Bianca. Bianca, man, she's like bossing people around, you know. She's that leader. Like, she's like, you will do what I say. There was no joy in her company, no joy in her company. And I was doing experiments all the time. I would send kids little email attachments of perks I got them, a beach house, a Ferrari, thing. They would go, oh my God, I got a Ferrari. Now, in my class, you had to keep a budget. You had to account for all your people. By the way, you don't get the computer, you rent them. You lease them, and that costs you. You want my help at your desk? $1,000 a minute consult. Oh, you know what happened? We don't need him. We can figure it out. He costs too much. Good. Stop treating me like a waiter. I'll come over there if you need me, but I ain't like, if you want to come to my desk, it's round trip airfare. My classroom was set up geographically. You're in Denver. You're in Seattle. I'm in Dallas. If you want to come to my desk, go on Orbitz and calculate it and take it out of your budget. Reflect that in your next quarterly statement. Kids started saying, you're not going to the bathroom, Bill. You know you're just getting a drink. You're wasting company resources. Kids, stop doing that. I didn't even do anything about it, man. I didn't even do anything. And this is back in the day. I had walkie-talkies, and so I would talk to them. Oh, I need to see CEO's corporate office now. Our dime or your dime? Your dime. Crap. They would all come to my desk and I'd say, hi, welcome, CEOs. I've noticed company-wide productivity is down. Did I hire the wrong CEOs? No. Fix it. You got 10 minutes before the end of this class to show me something. We got this. All right. Prove me wrong. They'd go back, and they took control. See, I wasn't the bad guy all the time. I was going to be the good guy. I could float around, like the whole thing, and they were trying on leadership. Well, I did this thing. I gave every group a big old Hershey bar. This is my social experiment. And every CEO broke them in pieces and gave their workforce a piece of chocolate. But Bianca went to the back of the room and ate the whole thing. It's huge. It's like huge. I don't know how you eat that whole thing. She came back to her company. She had chocolate lipstick. One of her girls said, Bianca, this company got a Hershey bar. No. We're on strike. Boom. They went on strike. They all sat down. She flew to the corporate office, her dime. She said, my company's on strike. I said, ooh, good luck with that. I just left her hanging there. Next day, she brought them little chocolate bars, a whole bag of them things. She got her people working again. By the end of the semester, my girl's a leader. You are welcome. Now, I'm under attack for doing this. I got my first bad evaluation doing this. Now, all the brain research I could do said this would work, that if kids were driving their own learning and in charge of it and had a stake in the whole thing, and it did work. I did this kindergarten to 12th grade, and they loved it. They begged for more. But my superintendent came in back at that time, and he sent me to the workshops where I learned how to do this. And he said to me, these kids are not on task. I said, come again. They're all doing different things. I said, cool. They all learn different ways. Yeah. This is what you told us to do. I'm just doing, this is it working here. I got a bad evaluation. And I thought, man, I'm not going back. This is right. I'm doing the right thing here. I know I'm doing the right thing. The kids understand. They're no longer asking me, why do I need to know this? They have the context right there in the lesson. It was good. I might look lazy because I'm at my desk on purpose. I'm not going to breastfeed you through this class. I'm not, right? And you're going to be better, and you're going to be proud, and you're going to be good. But it looks different. Mom and Dad, you got to understand, this is going to look different. It is. But I think it's the right thing to do. Other questions? I'm probably, am I done at 4:30? 4:30? I'm on 4:30, but that's Kansas time, right?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Other questions? I could just tell you stories. Yes, ma'am.
As a Board of Education member, how do you advocate for that kind of instruction and these kinds of innovations and big shifts in teaching?
As a board member, how do I advocate for these kinds of instruction? Thank you so much for asking. First, I'm going to tell you a secret you can tell no one. You can tell no one. This is how I work on the school board. I have a big idea, and I say it. Everyone hates it. 2 meetings later, someone else has my idea, and I vote against it. And it wins 4-1. Every freaking time it works. Long as you don't care who gets credit, you can do anything. So I go to places all over the world, and I see good models, and I just say it loud enough that someone remembers. 2 meetings later, they're looking for an idea, and mine becomes the idea. That's my secret. You tell anyone, and I will kill you. I'll have to kill you. How do I get them to do this? So, well, something's been happening recently that I think is happening in your district. We started tracking our students after graduation. Yeah, Chrysler does this, so does Chevy. They recall. If we could recall, I wonder how many we bring back. right? But when we think graduation is the end zone, it's nice, isn't it? They just walk across, we're all done, we wash our hands. How many of them go to college? How many of them get a job? How's that working? How do we know how good we're doing if we don't even track? So we started tracking. Of course, we became part of the clearinghouse, the information clearinghouse, so we could follow our kids, and we do a lot of phone calls. We do whatever it takes to find out what happened. Here's what we found out. We thought we were great, and we were good. We're very good, but we're not great. Our kids go to JUCO, Hush JUCO. By the time they graduate from Inman High School, it's kind of like you guys. They could almost have an associate's degree. That is awesome. And then they apply to a 4-year college, all right? Over 50% never finish the 4-year, but they accumulate debt. Right? We started going, what's going on? Our kids broken? What's going on? So we started asking ourselves, how do we change this? So we're pulling in the career clusters, the career pathways, and we're doing a lot more alignment. We're trying to give kids dual credit, right? So if you take welding, it could be an art credit, depends on what you made. We're opening our mind to giving kids dual credit and stop being so absolute about the fact you got to jump through exactly these things to be good in this class. And everyone's thinking about this because we looked at those numbers and we realized we had to do something different. So our state is now really, really looking at career pathways, and I'm okay with that. Some people are like, you selling out. I want my kid to get a job, move out of my house. We got a generation of people who are not moving out of their house. I think we got a generation of people who grew up watching sitcoms, Friends, for instance. Friends. Them people ever work? They're always at that coffee shop, man. Central Perk. How much time do you have to be at the coffee shop? So they got this wrong idea that we're going to have all this leisure time and work sometimes. They have kids. They see the kid like once every 3 shows. Come on, man. So their expectation got all weird, And I think that as a generation, we gave them a lot. But we might not have made them work as hard as they need to. I really do think that's going on. So how do I change that? How do I get my kids thinking about a job, a job? It's not the devil to get a job. And we started looking at industry. We used to look down our nose at welding. Well, she can't. She's not very academic. Well, we'll let her take welding. Are you freaking kidding me? You can make $70,000 welding. Yeah? You got your PhD? Yeah, keep waiting on them tables. People are starting to pay attention to what you can do, not just a degree on the wall. They're hiring for what you can do. So suddenly us hands-on teachers, you're starting to like us now. It was good stuff the whole time. Arts, by the way. Look, if you do STEM without STEAM, if you do STEM without art, you're missing a big piece. Art is the design part. You got to add art. And so what I want the teachers in the middle of this, pushing for the kids, because everything you pick up, everything you touch has design. Inventing without design, it means not finishing, right? So we got to get art involved in this stuff. So in our district, we cut art at the elementary. I'm not leaving the board till we have it back. We have to have it back because it's important. I know it's important. America, we're creative. We were creative, right? Pixar happened. We did Pixar. Well, Japan studied us, our automotive industry, and we laughed at them when they made Hondas. Oh, they're rinky-dink. A couple of years later, Coca needed a bailout. They caught up. They caught on. We send a lot of our stuff to be rendered in Bangalore, in India. They study. They're trying to figure out why we're funny. If they crack our funny code, what do we got left? How do we get back to what we were good at? What we were good at is we invented crap. We saw stuff and we did stuff. How do we get back there again? If our kids are going to have a job, they're going to need to know how to do these skills, not wait around for someone to solve their problem. H&R Block outsourced tax preparation years ago. When you get your taxes done by them, it was done in Bangalore. They did it last night while you slept. The next morning you got your taxes. Most tax preparation was outsourced years ago. The only thing left here is the best of the best, the exotic, right? So, what? You want to have a job? You better be great. You can't outsource great. Creativity is a big piece of that, right? I want to make sure we don't lose that while we're doing everything else, okay? I want to get the art teacher into every room. See, I'm starting to think of all of you as art teachers. Yeah, because you have this new palette of all these tools, colors you've never seen before. You can paint with everything. You want an art teacher in there to show you how to do that, right? Right? So I'd like you guys to move around and go to every class. Talk about how you introduce creativity to these processes, right? They want to, but it shouldn't be I go to one room and do art. Art should happen everywhere, right? Okay, how many people did I make mad just now? I put music in the same category. Remember I showed you the brain thing this morning? The brain sings. Why does music work? The brain sings, right? You're oscillating at frequency. You're singing. That's how your neurons coordinate. This is why music works. These things we think are optional aren't optional, right? Creativity. I want to put math together with art. This is why I like MC Escher. MC Escher, who knows who he is? Every math teacher thinks he's a math guy. Every art teacher thinks he's an art guy. He's both. Tessellations, yay, tessellations, right? There's a middle ground here. We're using 3D printers now, right? We're doing math and measurement, yes, even physics, and we're doing design at the same time. Yes, we should. Any makerspace should have all these elements, I think, right? Anything else? Other questions? I had a guy, yeah, go ahead.
How do you fit projects, when they seem to take so long, in with your curriculum when everybody's driving to, this is what your curriculum has to be?
Yeah, they seem to take so long. That's where it all breaks down. Let me tell you my solution to that. And it might not work for you, but I'm going to show you anyway. I went to school and we're trying to do PBL. I have one day with all the kids. One day. So, hey, master, come in here and teach my 79 kids by yourself while we watch. I do that. Bring it. Bring it. I'll sling it, right? So what I'm going to do is ancient history. I'm also doing math and measurement. I'm doing research. I'm doing all that in the same day. I'm teaching more content than you've done in a week in a day. Okay, I make it work that way. It can't drag on for weeks. Kids are an interesting combination of lazy and perfectionist that often leads nowhere. I got to have a deadline. I got to have a deadline. So they know this, right? So let me just walk you through this lesson. I'm trying to teach these teachers how to do all of this, problem-solving stuff. So I go to the kids first, and I had them become right now experts on Viking ship construction. This is only a handle so I can launch into ancient civilizations, right? So they're studying everything about Viking ships, and they're posting it on a Google Doc. Parents are watching too. And I'm screen capturing the entire process. Because when you come to my website, you see what kids do in my class. They learn. They learn right now, today, with me. You're welcome, right? So we study that first. And it looks crazy. Right? And I'm on social media, I'm talking to teachers, I'm looking for resources, and kids are learning as fast as they possibly can. And then I say to those teachers, those kids, okay, guys, we're going to make a 1/4 scale model. Scale. I always do scale because I'm teaching ratios. I never say the word ratios, but it's what it is. It's ratios, right? So the kids now have to size this thing down. One team's working on the left half of the ship, one team's working on the right half of the ship in 2 different locations. Why would I do it that way? Easier in one room. Why would I do that? Collaborate, cooperate, communicate. What the world says they want from us. But not across the country, across the school. I thought they'd run back and forth and compare notes. They texted. Now, the whole thing has to fit together, and by the end of the day, we've got a ship hanging in the stairwell, and that needs to be on permanent display, or at least a couple of years, and the kids become docents of their own learning museum. How long do they remember this? The next lesson, we make the H.L. Hunley, a Civil War submarine, and I'm tying into history. I'll grab you with something and then put handles on it so it connects to everything else. I'll give you one more of these kinds of things. Am I on point? Am I actually teaching curriculum? I never stopped teaching curriculum, but it just looks different. Let me go back to Honeycutt.org. I'll show you a lesson I've done a lot of times. This is Doomsday 1. I would love for you guys to do this if you want to. In this scenario, there's an asteroid headed for Earth, and it will kill us. It's an Earth killer. It will hit the Earth in 365 days. Kids, I need you to do all the research you can and come up with a plan for the UN Secretary General. Good luck and Godspeed. Literally, I have a video of me saying that exact thing on the page. So I say that, and they're like, we got to do this. And even my at-risk kids, they want to save the world. They literally get to in this scenario. So you click. If you don't know what to do, I take you step by step through all the different parts of this lesson. What about the rest of the world? Oh, there are other plans out there? Let's look at the other plans and see what exists. Interviews with experts, anyone? This is a glorified WebQuest on steroids. But what I'm trying to do is show that I can take junior high kids from I don't know anything to I just saved the world. Give me a day. I've done it in a day, I've done it in a week, I've done it in an hour. I just open my mind. I know I can't do it all if it's an hour, but I'm going to get in there. And one kid is always going to say on day 2, oh my God, this could happen. Right? We're the first generation of humans, kids, that could have saved itself, and we're not doing that. We spend a fraction of money, tiny little bit of money, watching the night sky. When someone finally sees the one that has our number, it's likely going to be seen by a backyard astronomer. And by the time her telescope can see it, it's already too late. If they don't have goosebumps, this is not going to work. And when they get in the middle of this, they put that video, that final conclusion on YouTube. Hello, UN Secretary General, I just want to tell you that this is our plan. We coordinated with Ohio State University professor, blah, 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 blah. They have to talk to 2 outside experts who will say their plan has a chance of working. Right? So cram it in and make it fit in the time that you have if you have to, right? And you've got to make a huge deal out of it or people are going to say, well, that's cute. I've got to make a PR video so everyone knows why we're doing that. My at-risk kids stay after school to work on this, right? Tell me what else does that. All right? Well, I would like to keep talking more, give you more examples. I collect a bunch of them. At a time? Listen, this has been one of the most fun days I've had in a year, and I'm not kidding. I feel like I can say anything to you guys, and it's not like that everywhere. So I just want to congratulate you. Thank you for being open-minded and sitting here and listening to me. Thank you so much.